Hello, friends, and welcome to Adventures in Pixieland. My name is Amy. I'm an ordained minister, and we are in Bible study. We are in the NIV. We are in 1 Kings, and we are in chapter 11, which starts off with, just as a lot of evening TV starts off at a particular hour. We're going to talk about Solomon's romantic life. Solomon's wives, as in plural. King Solomon, however, loved many foreign women besides Pharaoh's daughter: Moabites, Ammonites, Edomites, Sidonianites, and Hittites. They were from nations about which the Lord had told the Israelites, "You must not intermarry with them, because they will surely turn your hearts after their gods." Nevertheless, Solomon held fast to have them in love. He had 700 wives of royal birth and 300 concubines. And his wives led him astray. As Solomon grew old, his wives turned his heart after other gods, and his heart was not fully devoted to the Lord his God, as the heart of David his father had been. He followed Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, and Molech, 8, also Hebrew for Milcom, Milcom, the detestable god of the Ammonites. That's the one that we, when we're talking about needing a scapegoat, that's who eats it. It's also who does very bad things to children. Solomon did evil in the eyes of the Lord. He did not follow the Lord completely, as David his father had done. On the hill of East Jerusalem, Solomon built a high place for Chemosh, Chemosh, the detestable god of Moab, and for Molech, the detestable god of the Ammonites. He did the same for all his foreign wives, who burned incense and offered sacrifices to their gods. The Lord became angry with Solomon because his heart had turned away from the Lord, the God of Israel, who had appeared to him twice. Although he had forbidden Solomon to follow other gods, Solomon did not keep the Lord's command. So the Lord said to Solomon, "Since this is your attitude, and you have not kept my covenant and my decrees which I have commanded you, I will most certainly tear the kingdom away from you and give it to one of your subordinates. Nevertheless, for the sake of David your father, and will not do it during your lifetime. I will tear it out of the hand of your son. Yet I will not tear the whole kingdom from him, but I will give him one tribe for the sake of David my servant, and for the sake of Jerusalem, which I have chosen." So Solomon was like I said, it was in one of chapter 9, foreshadowing. Okay, God knew, and he wanted to preemptively tell him, "You do not get a dynasty if you cannot stay loyal to only me as a God." Hey, God can see all things. Right? Remember? Solomon's adversaries. Then the Lord raised up against Solomon an adversary, Hadad, Hadad, the Edomite, from the royal line of Edom. Earlier, when David was fighting with Edom, Joab, the commander of the army, had gone up to bury the dead and struck down all the men in Edom. Joab and all the Israelites stayed there for 6 months until they had destroyed all the men in Edom. But Hadad, still only a boy, fled to Egypt, with some Edomite officials who had served his father. They set out from Midian and went to Paran, Paran. Then taking men from Paran with them, they went to Egypt, to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, who gave Hadad a house and a land and provided him with food. Took him in as a refugee. Pharaoh was so pleased with Hadad that he gave him a sister of his own wife, Queen Tahpenes, Tahpenes, in marriage. The sister of Tahpenes bore him a son, Genubath, Genubath, whom Tahpenes brought up in the royal palace, where Genubath lived with Pharaoh's own children. While he was in Egypt, Hadad heard that David rested with his fathers and that Joab, the commander of the army, was also dead. Then Hadad said to Pharaoh, "Let me go that I may return to my own country." What have you lacked here that you want to go back to your own country?" Pharaoh asked. "Nothing," Hadad replied. But do let me go." And God raised up against Solomon another adversary, Rezon, Rezon, son of Eliada, Eliada, who had fled from his master, Hadazer, Hadadezer, king of Zobah, Zobah. He gathered men around him and became the leader of a band of rebels when David destroyed the forces of Zobah. Now there's a footnote of B. Destroyed them, or the forces of them being the forces of Zobah. The rebels went to Damascus, where they settled and took control. Rezon was Israel's adversary as long as Solomon lived, adding to the trouble caused by Hadad. So Rezon ruled in Aram and was hostile towards Israel. Jeroboam rebels against Solomon. Also, Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and Ebat, rebelled against the king. He was one of Solomon's officials, an Ephraimite from Zeredah, Zeredah, and his mother was a widow named Zeruiah. So Zeruah. Here is the account of how he rebelled against the king. Solomon had built the supporting terraces, footnote of C, or the Milo, and had filled in the gap in the wall of the city of David, his father. Now Jeroboam was a man of standing, and when Solomon saw how well the young men did his work, he put him in charge of the whole labor force of the house of Joseph. About that time, Jeroboam was going out of Jerusalem, and Ahijah, the prophet, Ahijah, of Shiloh, met him on the way, wearing a new cloak. The two of them were out alone in the country, and Ahijah took a hold of the new cloak he was wearing and tore it into 12 pieces. Then he said to Jeroboam, "Take 10 pieces for yourself, for this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. See, I am going to tear the kingdom out of Solomon's hand and give you 10 tribes. But for the sake of my servant David and the city of Jerusalem, which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, he will have 1 tribe. I will do this because they have forsaken me." At footnote of D on have, or Hebrew and Septuagint, Vulgate and Syriac. So the Septuagint Greek, the Vulgate Latin, the Syrian, Syrian, because he has, not because they have, because he has forsaken me. And worshipped Ashtaroth, the goddess of the Sidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Moloch, the god of the Ammonites, and have not walked in my ways, nor done what is right in my eyes. nor kept my statutes and laws as David, Solomon's father, did. But I will not take the whole kingdom out of Solomon's hand. I have made him ruler all the days of his life for the sake of David my servant, whom I chose and whom observed my commands and statutes. I will take the kingdom from his son's hands and give you 10 tribes. And I will give 1 tribe to his son, so that David my servant may always have a lamp before me in Jerusalem, the city where I choose to put my name. However, as for you, I will take you, and you will rule over that your heart desires, and you will be king over Israel. If you do whatever I command you, and you walk in my ways, and do what is right in my eyes by keeping my statutes and commands, as David my servant did, I will be with you. I will build you a dynasty as enduring as the one I built for David, and will give Israel to you. I will humble David's descendants because of this, but not for forever. Solomon tried to kill Jeroboam, but Jeroboam fled to Egypt, and Shishak, Shishak, the king, and stayed there until Solomon's death. So, there we got God splitting up the kingdoms, and he chose someone else, and just like with a lot of the other judges and a lot of the other prophets, it did choose someone from the tribe of Joseph. It seems to be his favorite other tribe. But remember, Joseph is the first of the sons of Israel that he gave visions and dreams to while he was a young man. Now, he was a little arrogant, and then his brothers were really terrible, so then everybody needed a humbling, including him. Solomon's death. As for the other events of Solomon's reign, all he did and the wisdom he displayed, are they not written in the book of the annals of Solomon? And there's a question mark there. Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years, and then rested with his father, and was buried in the city of David his father, and Rehoboam his son succeeded him as king. Now, if you want to find out what kind of king Rehoboam was, you're going to have to come back for the next video, friends.